kind of like everything else with AV, right? We kind of have to take a back seat to the bigger roles always. As long as the physical construction piece of it, kind of dominates a lot of that conversation with lead. At least the way that I interpret it, we do have a ways to go to show how our piece of the puzzle pays off more, I guess, in the long run than just during the construction process.
And I love how BC touched on we're always taking a back seat. I come from the theater world, AV, where the old joke is, what's the difference between a good tech and a great tech? Good tech does his job. A great tech does it without anyone ever knowing he's there. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's the way AV is. We always just make stuff work sort of in the background, and that's what everybody's used to now. I mean, how often now do you walk into a major room in a building and the light doesn't automatically pop on and off when you leave, right?
When you do things right, people won't be sure you've done anything at all.
Here comes Project Primrose to the AV industry, the importance of environmentally conscious manufacturing and wireless 4K, all that and more, next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 635, recorded Friday, October 20th, 2023, Killing Penguins. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest news and information we have gathered for the AV industry. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, first and foremost, brand new mom, Kelly Teel from HGA. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you for having me again, as always. Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Good to see you. And two guests that I've had Rebecca Sullins on a number of times because she's fantastic. I did not realize that these two next guests are like 5 minutes away from each other. So Rebecca Sullins from Ampthink. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me on again.
Absolutely. And if you get your CTS, in the next 2 months, you get Rebecca's autograph on your CTS.
It'll be worth something one day.
And BC Hatchett from Vanderbilt University. Welcome, sir.
Hey, thanks, Tim.
BC is one of the co-founders of HETMA, longtime education guy. The one thing I will have to say about Vandy, and I will say this continually throughout the show as I drink my coffee out of my Bears mug, Vandy is my mortal enemy because they gave us the worst quarterback in Bears history. That would be Mr. Jake Cutler.
Hey, he did pretty good for us, okay?
I'm certain. He was fantastic for you guys.
We love him here.
And he was good for the Bears for all of 2 quarters. Anyhow.
He lasted longer than Aaron Rodgers.
Oh.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Wow. All right. First story actually comes to us from our website. Adobe Max has happened this past week. It is the annual event where Adobe announces all of the new features of their software sets. This year, Adobe unveiled Project Primrose. If you have not seen it, the video shows Christine Dirk sporting a strapless white dress. When Dirk comes out into center stage, the design on the dress changes. This is not about fashion. However, if somebody gets me this dress, I will wear it to InfoComm 2024. Not kidding.
This is being recorded, marked.
Mitchell, I'm not kidding. I will wear that dress to InfoComm if somebody gets it. Here's the thing that the reason, and the thing that caught my eye, it's the thing that makes this technology possible. It is a non-emissive display technology called polymer dispersed liquid crystal, or PDLC. That's how I'm going to say it for the rest of the conversation. PDLC is not a new technology. However, they have made incredible leaps in the last 10 to 15 years when it comes to power consumption, because it used to use a lot of power and now it doesn't, as well as the contrast ratio, because it used to be abysmal. And now, again, Mitchell's going to put a link to the article here. You can watch the video of Dirk coming out, and the contrast on this thing is incredible. It reminds me a bit of e-ink, to be honest about it, with the contrast, with everything. Adobe has embedded this into this fabric, so it's flexible, right? They're also looking at it, according to a number of articles that I referenced in the article that we wrote. They're looking at handbags for this. Obviously, they used a dress for this. I saw it as a way to do digital signage, as a way for wayfinding, conference room scheduling panels where you can go by and see whether or not somebody's in there. Kelly, we're going to start with you as one of our designers on this show. When you look at this technology and you look at how institutions, whether that's a university or Fortune 1000, they start considering the power consumption of their displays, what can we do with PDLC in AV?
For PDLC technology, as you stated, it's not new. And aside from the energy efficiency aspect, I think there's also a versatility aspect, specifically to AV. I think because we can take PDLC technology and apply it to different surfaces and partitions and screens, it can be used in residential and commercial settings. So I think that will also go into the automation and even aviation applications as well. And I'm kind of seeing a move towards that. I think there's also, there's benefits aside from, just the aesthetic of PDLC technology. I think there's also security enhancement that plays a part. And you can also apply that to, if you're using it in a security system design, for instance, you can also create that type of technology for security partitions, or you can use it as a barrier in some instances. And I think in terms of AV specific, the interactive displays, I think those are going to be, I think we're going to see this technology a lot in retail, museums, exhibits. And I think we're going to see that also in terms of, the durability of PDLC technology too. I think that's going to be something that we are able to take, and I think it's going to be able to be designed to, withstand what our typical technology and our typical screens and digital signage can withstand now. So I think it's going to be something we see for a long time to come. And not only that, like I said, I think it's going to be something we also see in residential. And I know there's always that conversation about residential versus commercial, but I think in residential, it's going to be more of a smart home integration as opposed to an aesthetic, which is what you're going to see more in the commercial settings. And I think because it's something that's a relatively new concept to a lot of people outside of this industry, I think it's going to continue to evolve. And I think we're going to see different and innovative ways that it's going to be applied and used in combination with other things, such as electronic materials, or dresses, or smart windows and buildings. And so I think we're going to see that a lot as it kind of progresses. And I think another good thing about this technology is the reduced maintenance. I think there's a lot of reduced maintenance when it comes to PDLC technology, and I just think that that's where the versatility of it comes in. And I think that's what we're, in terms of if we're talking just benefits or what we're going to see in the future. Personally, I think that's something that we can all just assume, because I really think with this technology, you have a lot of different ways you can go.
All right, Rebecca, same kind of question is where do you see this being used?
I'm going to mostly agree with Kelly here. I see it if you look around, everything that we use today used to be 15 different objects, right? Yes. The phone in our pocket used to be a phone and a calculator and a SPL meter and whatever the hell else I have on my phone. So the whole idea of integrating everything into one is just sort of the way we're going. We're minimalizing everything. And that takes out so many sort of errors. Like, what would happen if we can get rid of mechanical shades? Now there's no controlling them. There's no replacing them when they go bad. There's no dust collecting on the fabric, yada, whatever. So it for the integration market, that's sort of where I see it, is getting rid of extra pieces and integrating them into one. And so I'm not entirely sure I see it really taking over in the fashion industry, simply because huge part of fashion is material drape. It's always going to be a little boxy and weird, right? So it'll be gimmicky for fashion. But I do think that as far as, like Kelly said, residential, imagine not having to have blinds on your homes that, the cat just rips down every 6 months and you have to replace, or the kids run into, or whatever. I see it in both markets. I also like the idea of it. And I do find it kind of interesting that the last podcast I was on with you, Tim, was talking about the powerless display units that were the binaural or whatever. Because I see this sort of being the same thing, only taking it one step further. What if you did have, like she said, like in zoos, but all of a sudden you could flash up the information right there on the display, right? So you can be sort of immersed in what you're looking at and what you're learning. It's one less thing to replace when something goes bad. I see it having a whole lot of implications in the integration market, integrating signage, wayfinding information, all in one spot. It's less construction, it's less installation, it's just easier.
All right, BC, Rebecca actually makes a really good point about the last time that her and I talked. It was about, a low power display that did not have a plug, right? It was one of the items from Infocom. So BC, we are going to talk a couple more times about, the environmental impact of our manufacturing, the environmental impact of what customers buy. So whether it's, Vandy itself or just, higher education or corporate in general, how important, are our low energy displays technologies becoming when it comes to putting that stuff into your facilities?
So they're pretty huge. I know right now, whenever we're doing new construction projects, one thing we always look at is LEED certification and LEED implications. In fact, we have a whole large book we have to hand to our integration partners that state we're trying to meet these energy targets that we can qualify for. I think our minimum standard on campus is LEED Silver. Okay. For new builds. So anywhere we can save power or save those installation and infrastructure costs, we're going to take advantage of it, because it's with displays, the signal infrastructure is always kind of the hidden dragon for it. Like, how are we getting signal to it? What is the source going into that sink? Just kind of what Kelly touched on too, that this did bring up a lot of ideas, especially in the signage realm. Like, if I can put a small sign outside of a room and it gives that information for that day, and I don't have to run expensive power, or I don't have to do PoE, I don't have to do any of those things, that opens up a lot of opportunities and a lot of conversations. Especially in a very large campus like this, where people are always moving offices or labs or moving to different locations. We don't have to pay to re-sign a space every time something new moves in or moves out.
Really quickly, and this is to any of the three of you, but BC, since you mentioned LEED, one of the issues that I have with LEED doesn't give AV enough credit, right? And the reason I say that is stuff like this, right? Energy saving that an automation platform can give a facility should have more points towards LEED Silver or LEED Platinum. That's my 2 cents. That's my opinion. That's the opinion of Tim Albright, not AVNation, not anybody else, right? But that has always been my issue with LEED. Is there anything that we can do as an industry, or are we just stuck with the outline that they give us?
I think you've asked a good question there, Tim. It's kind of like everything else with AV, right? We kind of have to take a back seat to the bigger roles always. As long as the physical construction piece of it, kind of dominates a lot of that conversation with LEED. At least the way that I interpret it, we do have a ways to go to show how our piece of the puzzle pays off more, I guess, in the long run than just during the construction process.
And I love how BC touched on, we're always taking a back seat. I come from the theater world, AV, where the old joke is, what's the difference between a good tech and a great tech? Good tech does its job. A great tech does it without anyone ever knowing he's there. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's the way AV is. We always just make stuff work sort of in the background, and that's what everybody's used to now. I mean, how often now do you walk into a major room in a building and the light doesn't automatically pop on and off when you leave, right?
Yeah. Next story comes to us from AV Network. Key Digital has released a brand new wireless 4K HDMI extender. Wireless 4K HDMI extender. I'll get there in a second. It can extend HDMI signals up to 100 feet. The extender supports 4K resolution at 60 hertz and HDR10. Also has IR control extensions and an HDMI pass-through connection. This extender, according to the press release, is quote-unquote easy to set up. Simply connect the transmitter to the receiver output, and your source is ready to go. Rebecca, I'm going to start with you in this. What is the demand for wireless video, and maybe not wireless video, but even wireless 4K?
That is a two-headed question. The demand for wireless video is and always has been high. I still, to this day, have salesmen that have to have this conversation with people all the time. They're like, why doesn't my little dongle that I plug into my computer to display on my conference room, why is my video, because it was not built for video like that. It was not built to transmit this. People want it because, again, technology has become so incredibly ubiquitous in our day-to-day lives that we don't realize the differences in Netflix coming in over our Wi-Fi and video from, you know, in our conference room. Like, people can't see that difference. They think it should work just like that, right? Their Netflix comes in wirelessly, so should their conference room video. So I think the demand is high. I honestly think that this is that this product is a little late to the game. I don't think 4K video is necessarily all that high demand, because again, who's going to be using this? It's going to be conference room guys on a 65-inch TV, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to use this on a 65-foot LED jumbotron. Like, this is not going to be the tech you use. So I'm not sure that 4K is really important here, but I do believe the demand for video in this application is very good.
BC, I'm going to take a little bit different tact with you on this. Last week on AVWeek, we discussed RF and the necessary evil of managing RF on your campus and in your corporate space. This is, again, my opinion. There's a lot of opinion from Tim today. This does nothing more than complicate that task, because, not to be stupid, kids, but wireless video is using an RF, unless it's point to point and it's using an IR or some sort of laser transmission technology. Typically, you're using RF. So does this just add to that mess? I mean, how concerned should schools and corporations be about their RF space when they start going down this wireless video road?
Massively, I would say. Yeah. If I, you know, there's a lot of RF out here. I mean, we've got, you know, all of our wireless mics. Our public safety has their radios. Our APs are broadcasting out there. I mean, we're going to be running into issues right and left. I think it does complicate it. I mean, I'm interested in it. Wireless video would be amazing, but I don't know what kind of surprises would unfold if this was taken up on a very wide adoption scale.
I also just have to jump in real quick. I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine who runs sound. And remember, BC and I are in Nashville, which is one of the highest rates of concentrated music venues in the world. And he runs audio downtown, and you cannot get a wireless signal down there. It's almost impossible.
Kelly, one of the things that Kelly and HGA, they consult and they design a lot of spaces. I'm interested to see what kind of conversations you're having, because the projects that Kelly's working on are typically about a year or so ahead of Rebecca's projects. So what sort of conversations are you having about around wireless video?
Well, I think there's, you know, obviously there is a demand for it because there is that wireless convenience that everybody wants. But when we're talking about RF and a complicating RF, I think in terms of that, because we got to think about the fact that there's increased bandwidth requirements for 4K video alone. You know, the higher resolution and frame rates, and then data rate demands, interference, congestion, latency. So these are all things that you got to consider when it comes to, you know, using increased use of wireless 4K video transmission, and then RF spectrum congestion. As far as the demand aspect of it, I think a lot of people want that flexible placement. They, you know, in some instances, they want the high quality 4K resolution. I think, you know, as Rebecca stated, in conference rooms, it's not such a big concern or request or demand. Yeah. But, you know, I think also, there's also where these 4K extenders, these wireless 4K extenders, if designed properly, should be engineered to provide also low latency, which is also important for applications where real-time response is critical. And, you know, when I say critical, I mean to gamers, yes, that's critical. Interactive presentations, critical in a sense, but, you know, it's something that these extenders are supposed to be engineered to provide. And then as far as the audio transmission part of it, I think the 4K extenders will also transmit the high quality surround sound formats, and again, and where that's important versus where it's not. But in a home theater, that might be something that somebody wants to invest in. And then there's also still the aspect that everybody's always loved, which is the plug and play setup. So the extenders, they're easy to set up, as you stated. And then they also typically involve, you know, connecting to the source device and then the receiver to the display. Easy enough, right? And then on top of that, they have this where they have compatibility with multiple devices. So I think all of those are things that have kind of been, I guess you could say, pros to the technology. It's just something that, and we've always had, these are always things that when I'm doing a design, these are always the asks from clients.
Really quickly, Kelly, when you said upgradability, are you talking about upgradability resolution? Or are you talking about some other sort of upgradability?
More so resolution, and I think that these extenders will be able to keep up with that evolution of the technology as we kind of start getting into different and more advanced resolutions, and being able to connect that to different displays. And as the displays also kind of evolve, we're going to need, the ask I know is going to be, how do we have, what's the scalability of this? Can we have multiple displays in different rooms? Can we add additional 4K extenders? And then, as technology evolves, those extenders need to evolve with it.
Our final story. Commercial integrator Shure, which is a sponsor of AVNation, Shure announced advancements to their sustainability efforts. The company's recent energy efficiency improvements include packaging changes, rechargeable batteries. Shure has reduced its energy use by 25,000 kilowatt hours. That's a lot. If you're not familiar with what a kilowatt hour is, look at your power bill. At the factory in Germany. Shure is also working to make its packaging more sustainable by using 75% recyclable and or renewable materials. Shure has also converted many of its products to rechargeable batteries, which has saved over 20 million AA batteries from landfills. BC, we're starting with you on this. ESG is something that's been coming up across the spectrum on corporations. I don't care if it's AV or what. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance values. How important are those ESG values when it comes to a campus, when it comes to a university, when it comes to a Fortune 500, making sure that they line up with the people you're buying from?
So I would say, just not speaking for Vanderbilt, but speaking for myself, I think it's a very important subject. We want to make sure that the companies that we're working with are working towards a sustainable model. I mean, it provides better products, better longevity, and just better overall output for us. Like the investment, especially with the rechargeable batteries. I mean, that's huge for a campus of this size. I mean, we've got 430 classrooms. I would say half of those have microphones of some kind that require batteries. Right. I mean, we buy 9-volt and AA in bulk twice a year. Being able to start shifting to rechargeable and better rechargeable has made an impact, not only with the number of batteries that we toss every year or try to get into recycling every year, but just from a cost savings and a convenience factor. Right. I mean, the rechargeable batteries, if they go all day and mic's in use all day, all you got to do is pop it on, recharge it overnight, and you're ready to go the next day.
Yeah.
It's, I think it's a great move, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how they continue to evolve that. But, I think it's a very important step with all of our institutions.
Math is not my strong suit, but according to BC's stats there, he would save 860 AAs a year. Mm-hmm. One campus, right? One college and university, and there's roughly 6,000 in the U.S. alone. Right. And I am not that good at math, so don't ask me to do that one in my head. Kelly, same kind of question here. As you're designing systems and you're working directly with your clients, how often does ESG come up when you start specifying, when she does specify? A lot of times Kelly's designs are not generic, but you don't call out specific products or companies. But how often does ESG come up when you make sure that your clients' values are lining up with the vendors and the suppliers that you guys are going to start pitching?
Yeah, so this actually has been a more recent ask. We just did a design for a outdoor park, which was owned and operated by a foundation, they were providing to the public for a resource to come and here's free Wi-Fi if you want to connect. We're going to have events here. And one of the things they asked for was, or asked about, was sustainability. And actually, I'm getting that ask, or at least in terms of how can we implement sustainability into our technology and our designs. I'm getting asked that a lot more. And one of the things we have to look at is the environmental impact, but we also have to look at the resource and energy efficiency. We have to make sure there's a responsible use of resources. And we also have to make sure that we're encouraging the efficient use of resources in technology design. But also, we also need in our design, using, I guess you could say, environmental impact as a thought process. This translates to creating products and services that are energy efficient, and they minimize the carbon emissions, which is the end goal. But we also have to make sure that we are using materials that are critical in the design. And we also have to, in this instance, we had to look at the data privacy and security. So we also had to, that was also a consideration. And we also had to make sure we had, there was an ethics part of this where we had to make sure that the automation that's being integrated into technology, these systems have to be ethically sound, I guess you could say. And we also had to there was a social responsibility on our part, where we had to also demonstrate a commitment in our technology design to include diversity, inclusion efforts, fair labor practices, all of that. And there's many different ways we can have this conversation, but I think if it's become a requirement or an ask, yes, more and more we're getting asked about sustainability in our designs. And depending on what the client is looking for is kind of where we take our design and we say, okay, what are your most important needs and wants and in terms of sustainability? And sometimes it is about regulatory compliance. Sometimes it's about social responsibility. So, it's all dependent on what their needs and wants are. But, I think ESG considerations have gained significant importance in technology design due to the important impact on sustainability. And I know our company, we have a whole department that focuses on ethical practices, legal compliance, risk mitigation, reputation, overall business. And we also prioritize ESG in our design and development if that is something that the client is focused on in terms of processes that are better positioned to meet the evolving expectation. So, I think it's something that's a little bit newer of a conversation, but I have had clients as of recent bring up sustainability, and we've had a whole separate meeting and conversation about it when we have our kickoff meetings or we have our program meetings. We'll have a meeting just dedicated to sustainability that is integrated into the design. And again, it's dependent on what's most important to them. But I think those are some of the things that we look for when we are trying to implement, I guess you could say, sustainability into the design.
Well, yeah, it's become another design consideration, right? We need to make sure that there are 50 people that can comfortably sit in this room. Oh, by the way, we also might want to make sure that we're complying with our ESG goals as well. Rebecca, you'll have the last word on this one. As you're designing and putting together systems, how often is ESG and the sustainability model of your suppliers coming into play?
A lot. And I will, as per usual, climb in here and put on my overthinking devil's advocate cap, because that's what I'm good at. So, number one, I like that Shure's doing this. I used to be a roadie. I cannot tell you the number of 9-volt batteries I have gone through in my life. I personally have probably killed like 5 penguins. Now, so the rechargeable battery thing, I absolutely love. Couldn't love it more for cost, for convenience, for everything, because we all know nobody recycles those. They chuck them in the garbage, whatever. So the issue that comes up here is, first and foremost, does integrating rechargeable batteries into the device, which often deteriorate over time. They do not recharge as well. They do not hold a charge, whatever. And in mission critical applications, you will chuck the device. So where's the point of no return on your sustainability there when you're replacing entire devices once every 5 years as opposed to batteries, right? So I would like to see sort of the research on that, see how they are working on that technology, if they're replaceable, rechargeable batteries, all that kind of stuff. It's a lovely thought, and obviously we have to keep moving forward in this area, but is it all the way there? I don't know. Also, that article mentioned a whole lot things like automated lights, yada, 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 which to me is like Apple reminding us to recycle when my Coke bottle is not causing the same amount of problems that their, facilities in China are, right? What is the bigger picture here? We all know Shure is a large manufacturer. They use a lot of technology, which uses mining and factories and, all that kind of stuff. And while 25,000 kilowatt hours is a lot, just to put that into perspective, that's less than my home uses in 1 year. So they literally just demolished one single suburban American home. It's not that much in the grand scheme of things, right? So yes, I applaud them for moving in this direction. I think they need to continue to do so. But do I think it's enough? No. And I would like to see more, and I will continue to support companies that continue to move in that direction.
The one thing that, and this is a longer conversation, wider than Shure, wider than AV. Something Rebecca said there is, if you look at the carbon footprint of the five of us, the four of us, right? I sometimes count Mitchell because he's sitting here in the background, compared to a corporation, right? And some of these corporations have very good intention. This is not a comment on Shure. This is on the wider society. And those corporations will go, we all need to do our part to lower our carbon footprint. And it's like, kids, right? Apple, right? You don't need to build a third spaceship like they're doing in North Carolina. So even though I'm sure it'll be awesome, and I have friends that work at Apple and they'll enjoy the spaceship. It's
all great fun, but when you put it into perspective, it's literally one home. We can do better.
This whole rechargeable battery thing and not putting in the limit. This is another thing where we should get points for lead. Just saying. All right, that's all. I'm going to get off the lead for a second. Thank you all so much. Kelly Teel, fantastic to see you, ma'am. Kelly Teel from HGA. How do people connect with you or HGA?
I am only on LinkedIn under Kelly Teel, Peel with a T. And that's it.
You are not the only one. I'm just going to put that out there. Rebecca Sullins, how do people connect with you or Ampthink, or how do they get your autograph?
Oh, so you can get my autograph by getting any of your CTS certifications before December 31st of this year. So go ahead and do that. Hang it on the wall. I might be famous one day. You never know. You can find me on LinkedIn, Rebecca Sullins, Sullins. I'm on Twitter, RE Sullins. Ampthink is ampthink.com. It's not that hard. Ampthink. I can spell. You can contact me in any of those places. So
BC, very nice to see you, sir. Thank you for coming on for the first time. How do people connect with you, with Vandy, or with Hetma?
Thanks, Tim. It was great being on. I'm on LinkedIn, and that's BC Hatchett, and then also Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it these days, and that's at BC Hatchett there as well. Also, I monitor and check the at het_org Twitter post. So if you guys want to connect with me there, also can be reached there.
Now, if you are an end user, a in-house integrator, a specifier in any way, shape, or form, the Hetma group is not just college and universities, even though that is a large part of their makeup right now. They're also opening their arms and their doors to anybody in the corporate space as well. So if you are responsible for AV, I sound like I'm doing a commercial for Joe Way, go ahead and sign up. So for me, for Tim Albright, do not follow me on the Twitters. Don't look me up on LinkedIn. I am complaining about the Bears and Jay Cutler, I'm certain at some point. We'll go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. Brand spanking new Women in AV dropped to the day that we're recording this, but by the time you listen to it, it'll be the past Friday. Dealing with grief. And it is somebody who is lost, both a mom and a sister. That was an incredible episode that Jennifer and Erica put together. So go listen to that. Matter of fact, if you stop listening to this and go listen to that, it would be nice. ISE has already started up, so you can find us there at ISE, and you will find me at DSE, Digital Signage Experience, in Vegas the first week of December, and actually a few days before that, you'll find me with the guys, the Bald AV guys, and Pace University in New York. We're doing moderating a panel on women in the industry. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.